Welcome to the Literally First Class podcast, where I will teach you how to overcome anxiety and achieve somatic success. I'm your host, Keri Ford. I'm a somatic success and holistic life coach here to bring humor, insight, and wisdom to the modern day woman that wants to feel alive in her daily life. You ready? Come on, I saved you a seat in first class. And we're live on the first episode of Literally First Class, the podcast. How did we get here? I can't believe I have a podcast. Actually, I can. If you know me, you know that I swear leaf blowers like follow me around everywhere I go. I tried to record this first episode like 18 different times, and the lawn people aren't even supposed to be here today. They're supposed to be here tomorrow. But of course, I'm trying to record a fucking episode, and they're right outside the door. I took a video, and I put it on my Instagram. So annoying. It's become the joke, though. There was another time that I was trying to record meditations, and I had set the housekeepers up to come like 2 hours after I was done. And lo and behold, they're 90 minutes early. I'm like, are you kidding? So crazy. Anyway, I want to talk about how we're here, like how this happened. So for a long time, I had a ton of resistance around even having a podcast. It felt like it was a lot of work, and I wasn't quite sure what my message would be. And so I spent about a year and a half only being dedicated to being interviewed on other people's podcasts, which was super fun because I got to meet a lot of interesting people. I got to pour into a lot of different audiences. I got to witness like different interview styles and things like that. But there came a point where I was like, I have more to say, and I feel like this just makes sense now. And I'm really excited because my vision for the podcast is short micro content that just isn't too serious all the time. I feel like I spend so much time writing in all the feels, and I love that. I love writing the deep, spiritual, poetic things that you see on my Instagram and Facebook, and those are all like profoundly of me and an expression of like the artist in me. But also on the other side of that, I'm super silly and I'm very sarcastic. And I often don't show that side of me because, well, it's kind of weird. And I'm an extroverted introvert. So I wanted to let that side out here in Literally First Class. And if you're like me, you're used to being the very responsible one. You're used to, maybe you're even like the one that was like super mature for her age when she was little, because that was me. You're used to like being serious all the time or like fighting to be taken seriously, as I often did, especially in corporate. Most of my previous mentors were male. And so I felt like I often had to be very buttoned up and dialed in to assert myself in the space so that I would be respected. Those of you that don't know, I feel like a cat with 9 lives, but I worked in advertising in New York City and in Los Angeles, and the department, the agency was primarily men. And again, like most of my mentors were men. And so I felt like it was often assumed that I was some sort of ditzy blonde, like here comes another piece of arm candy. And while it was fun to prove people wrong, it also came from the energy of proving. And so I just think I developed this, I've got to be serious. I need to be taken seriously. And it's really kind of fucked with me, right? Because like, have you ever asked yourself the question, like, what do I even do for fun? How do I have fun? What does joy look like? How do I play? What even is play? These are questions I've definitely explored, and I'm not going to lie, even recording my intro, my outro, my trailer for the podcast, I was catching myself getting caught up in getting it right. And so I just want this to be like a place and a space where we can be unfiltered and we can be unapologetic and we can be silly, and it's not always serious. I want to pour into you with this micro content, 15-minute episodes that are digestible. They're fun to consume. Maybe they're borderline entertaining. I don't know. Like, I think I'm funny to myself and to other people, but I think most introverts would say that about themselves. Anyway, weekly episodes are going to come out, and I want to bring Jake on. Those of you that don't know Jake is my romantic partner. He's my significant other. I don't use boyfriend because, let's be real, I mean, I'm almost 40 and I've got 2 kids, and saying he's my boyfriend just feels super young. So we just go by significant other, romantic partner, or partner. But yeah, Jake's going to come on, and that'll happen once a month for a really fun joint episode. And those might be a little longer because if you haven't met Jake, then you don't know that he's a little long-winded sometimes. Don't tell him I said that. Anyway, that's my vision, right? To like just let our hair down, to have fun, and to explore this together. What this came from, though, is truly my desire to give other women permission to do the same. Again, this idea that like, what is success? Why do we feel the need to have success be postured in such like a performative way? Like myself included, I'm totally guilty of this. I'm totally guilty of, thinking making a certain amount of money or working with a certain level of client or doing a certain type of experience because I can afford it or whatever has to then look a certain way or change you, and it doesn't. So I'm filming in a fucking t-shirt. There's going to be other times I'm just going to be in a hoodie. I'll have no makeup on. Like, I don't care. It's just going to be fun. I want this to redefine what success gets to look like for you, but even more than that, what success gets to feel like for you. In terms of what success feels like in your body, I think I spent a lot of years actually confusing anxiety for motivation. I don't know if that lands for anybody else, but what I mean by that is this gotta get it done, always having the list, like always feeling behind with sort of like just this underlying tone of fear. That was the energy in which I sourced motivation from. It was like, here's the thing, the way that manifested was no rest for the weary. It was staying up late, sometimes for a few days at a time. I remember multiple nights in college just staying up for like 2-3 days straight. In fact, I gave myself walking pneumonia and I didn't even know I had it until I couldn't go up a flight of stairs. Maximum stress was my baseline. And I want that freedom for you. I want you to be able to take your foot off of this subconscious gas pedal that you're so fucking scared to take your foot off of. You're not going to lose your business. You're not going to lose your success. And sometimes success looks like pencil skirts and fun like blazers, and sometimes it looks like being in a hoodie sitting in first class. Like it can look like whatever the fuck you want it to. And so that's what this podcast is about. It's about our liberation, especially in the uprising of feminine leadership, and getting to do things differently because we want to and we get to. So if you're like me and anxiety again has been your driver and your motivating force, we're going to explore what it looks like to relax, calm the fuck down, and create from that space and sustain it and even go to our next level. Because I really do think you can have it all. Like, I truly think that you can have the wealth, you can have the health, you can have the relationship, you can have the sex, all the things that you envision to be like your juiciest, most alive, most adventurous life. I really think you can have that. Where we get stuck is when we think it's got to look a certain way or be a certain way because, oh, now I've reached a certain level of success. Like, oh, now that I'm doing this, it's got to look that way. I've been totally guilty of that, and that's okay. Like, we've all never been here before. So I'm really excited to dive in and offer you guys value, hopefully some humor, lightheartedness, and to just let the mask down, because I know that if you're like me, you probably have hidden behind like a perfectionist mask you didn't even know wasn't you. For so long, that became my default too. Like, if things look good, well, then it will feel good. But then when it didn't feel good, I thought something was wrong with me. Nothing was wrong with me. I was actually like abandoning and betraying myself. I just didn't know it. And the bigger part, and I kind of get excited about this, is I didn't know how to change it. The how is so important because that's how change is created, right? Like, change requires 2 things. It requires awareness, which a lot of people have to a certain level. And it requires choice. But how do you choose differently despite the awareness? That's the part where I typically come in with clients, whether I'm leading like retreats and workshops or working with them one-on-one. The how is really like the hardest part. It truly is. If we don't feel safe to like in our own body to change something, well, then we somehow keep experiencing the same something. Have you ever noticed that? You're like, fuck, I'm so aware that I'm doing this, but how do I stop despite the awareness? Like, I know I don't want this. I know that it's not in creation to like where I ultimately want to go, but how do I change it? What are the tools? What is the modality? And of course, I mean, I could go on forever about all the modalities and all the ways to do this, but primarily the ones that I have found that work for me and the ones that I use with clients is somatic experiencing. Somatic is soma, it means of the body. It's literally the mind-body connection. And we work with sensations in the body in order to free ourselves from trauma. I mean, that's like probably the highest level definition I can give of that. If you're not familiar with it, you can look it up. Peter Levine is the founder of somatic experiencing. And that's actually the current role that I'm pursuing, which is the somatic experiencing practitioner. And it's a 3-year program. So it's pretty deep. Trauma is a very complicated thing. And then other practices I use are like meditation and vision work and identity shift stuff, like intuition, but I mean, again, it all kind of comes back to the experience in our body. And so a really long way to say all of this is ultimately I teach embodiment work. How can you be your best self? Why aren't you there yet? Who are you today? And what is that gap? Then that's where the how reveals itself in the gap. That's what we need to change so that we can become this next level without changing who we are, right? And so anyway, those of you that have followed me for a while, you probably have witnessed a transformation in me. Those of you that have followed me for a long while have witnessed a major transformation in me. I am literally not the same person that I was like 5 years ago, definitely not 10 years ago. I mean, you could argue that I was completely asleep in life, just going through the motions, doing all the shoulds, checking off all the boxes. And then when I went through my divorce 4 years ago, that's really when I started to wake the fuck up. It was like everything as I knew it was completely changed. And people ask me, how did you know to get divorced? How did you know? And I'm like, well, to be honest with you, there was a point in time it started to become like, if I don't do something different, I am actively choosing the same thing, and that's a special kind of suffering. And so, I knew for me that was kind of a path that I couldn't not choose. Like I had to walk that path if I loved myself enough. And I do, and I did at the time. I was scared out of my mind because I had no certainty guaranteed on the other side that like walking this path was going to result in anything. But all I knew was that along the way, I've been picking up pieces of myself and putting myself back together into wholeness. And it's been like the greatest adventure, the scariest thing of my life, and also the best reclamation and revolution of self-love that I can ever, ever, ever explain. So I'm excited to dive in and share even more about that journey. And you'll see when you meet Jake too, because, Jake and I, we live a very specific lifestyle around, attunement and nervous system regulation and conscious partnership. And what does that look like in communication? So he's, I know, going to offer some really great value as well. But I'm excited you're here. I can't wait to get started. I don't envision doing interviews right now, or at least yet, maybe in the future. But right now, I just really want to get comfy cozy here and share with you guys authentically and vulnerably, like what's really going on in my world and how do I navigate success and like, what does that even look like? And how can we let go of these shackles that seemingly bind us? My point in sharing all of these threads and all these wisps is that again, success gets to look however you want it to look. And so that's what I'm committed to creating and exploring with you guys here on the podcast. So I will see you guys on the next episode. I hope you enjoyed your flight, and I'll see you on board again soon. Seriously though, thanks for listening. If you're ready to take this work deeper and upgrade your mind, I want to invite you to join us inside my Millionaire Mindset program. This is where you'll start using my guided meditations to help you overcome anxiety and experience even more abundance. When you join, you'll have access to my entire audio library. Head over to elevatewithkeri.com and we'll see you inside.